Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everyone. This term I'm going to mention, and when I heard it, I was intrigued because the words don't go together. Oxymoron? Smiling depression. Smiling depression may not be an official diagnosis, but certainly something that is getting some attention now. And we're going to look at that and lots more with our Diamond of the Decade. She is the wonderful woman behind a great center in Massachusetts that helps people with their mental health all the time. And it's called New Beginnings. And she is Sherri Alexandrovich back with us on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Fantastic. And I mean it. I
Oh,
mean it.
good.
I'm not just saying that. Things are good. A little busy, lots of things spinning in the air, and you're juggling at once, but it's all good. It's all good. And I say that because of smiling depression. What exactly is that?
So I was reading an article in the medical journal about this new terminology. Well, I don't know that it's new, but about a terminology called smiling depression. Although it's not an official diagnosis, the term kind of was coined because there are so many people who are silently or internally struggling with depression, but carry this mask on the outside. And the mask is a smile that everything is okay. And you would not know by looking at them that they're suffering from depression. They go to work every day, they parent, they take care of their household, they do their chores, they do the things that normally would be triggers that people would say, oh, they're depressed. But outwardly, people, they don't look depressed, but inside is where they're really internally struggling. And I think it's important to talk about, not just because depression is such an important topic, but there are so many people out there that are suffering with depression, people
Mm.
that you wouldn't think that are suffering with depression because outwardly they don't look like they do.
Whether it's depression or not,
Mm,
people show us what they want us to see.
right.
It's a thing called social media. And,
Sure. Mhm.
therein lies comparison. I feel comparison steals joy, and people
Mhm.
put this stuff out there, and they're not living the life like you might think they might be. And then that makes the rest of us, because we buy into it, feel, well, look at them, look at me. And then you compare, and then you get even more down and or depressed. And just what you said, as soon as those words get mentioned, smiling depression, I think of, well, and I'm sure we all do, who might you know that presents a certain way, but that's not really the reality of them. And there's a few, like even recently, somebody I know, very positive, always talking about how he wants to help others and see, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about. And that's not even his job or wheelhouse. It's just like he studies this kind of stuff. And then I come to learn recently that he's having some challenges in his marriage.
Mhm.
And face value, I don't judge anybody at all. I would have never thought that.
Right.
Oh, okay, man, he's working through it, and
Mhm.
it's all good at this point. But didn't see that one coming.
Right, right. And I think that there's this stigma that people who are suffering from depression aren't able to shower. They can't go to work. They can't leave their house. They're not able to kind of go through and complete their daily activities. But that's not the case for everybody who's suffering with depression. And I think, one of the things for me when I was reading this article that kind of stood out was suicidality. People who suffer with depression, one of the catastrophic outcomes could be suicidality. If we have a pool of people who are smiling through their depression, they're not going to seek out the help that they need for a variety of different reasons: embarrassment, shame,
Mm.
guilt. They don't want to burden other people. They have a specific perfectionistic mask that they put on for everybody else. And they don't want other people to see that. one of the concerns, the safety concerns with that is if they are internally suffering and having any of these suicidal ideation thoughts, they're not going to say anything to anybody. And so the concerning part for that is how many people would then act on these specific suicidal ideations, or even just over drinking when they're home, or overuse of drugs to self-medicate, using unhealthy coping skills because they don't want to either reach out for therapy, or they
Mm.
don't want to go out on vacation, or they don't want their partners, their husbands, their wives, their children, their friends to know that they're suffering. So they're suffering in silence. And you wouldn't know it by looking at them, but internally the struggle is as great, if not more, of everybody else who's suffering with depression.
And you know what's sad, Sherry Ann, that it's scientifically proven that if you smile, it
Mhm.
does something chemically to your body. Like they
Yeah.
say, just, smile more often. It does something for you in a very, very, very positive way. But in these situations, the challenges far outweigh the benefits of the smiling, although there's nothing wrong with smiling. Absolutely. But there's more going on there than we see. And as you said, it's a mask that some put on.
Right. So the smiling helps us to feel better if we feel it internally. So if the smile is a mask and you're completely, dissociated from what your facial features are doing, and you're not internally really embracing that or feeling that, it's really just as kind of mundane as any other facial feature that you would put. Because if you're not really genuinely feeling that smile, it's just that. It's just something that you've painted on, just like you put on your makeup, or you comb your hair, or you curl your hair. It really doesn't have that impact, that internal impact, if you don't genuinely feel it. And you're just putting it on as a show.
Mm,
I think about Robin Williams,
oh my gosh.
right? Hmm.
I don't think you can pick a better example than that.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so that is not an exact, definition of what smiling depression could look like. And then you think about every other people in this world who have committed suicide or have had, similar experiences as that, you'd never know.
Mm,
You'd never was dealing with the depression because they're silently suffering inside. And that makes it even worse, because then not only do they not want to talk to other people, they're socially isolated. They are all having all of these symptoms internally: lack of focus, struggling to get through every single day. And they might come across as somebody who just is moody or having a bad day,
yeah.
or right. You're going to, so, and think about what's really going on the inside for those people. It may be something just so much worse than them just having a bad day, or not feeling good, or presenting in a way that you might just, oh, Joe down the street's just not having a good day today, right? But what's really going on the inside? And I think as a society, that's really important for us to kind of take a step back and look at, is I think all of us are struggling with something internally, right? I mean, none of us don't have anything that we're not struggling with. So if we could just be kind to other people, and take into consideration what other people's challenges or demons or things that they're suffering with inside, just having that one kind word or that one kind moment, or acceptance or understanding for somebody else, can go so far in making that person's day.
Mm. Well,
I see
I
shining,
I
right? It's
I totally appreciate you saying that. Yeah, we all got stuff going on. We do. Like everybody.
mhm,
Nobody's immune
mhm.
in some shape and form. You could be okay. So I'm going to say this, and I want your thoughts.
Okay.
We're all grieving, aren't we? Think about that just for a moment. Like there's something, we're always grieving something. We might not know
Mhm.
it. We might not realize it. It could be the passing of somebody from decades ago. It could be the loss of a relationship, the loss, and big and small, all of those things. But there's always a loss. There's always a grief that you may not realize it in the forefront, but it's in your DNA. It's, a lot of people believe it goes down to the cellular level of the stuff we deal with. But then there's that, that's another layer of, challenge.
Absolutely. And the grieving looks different for everybody, that grieving process. It doesn't necessarily have to just be the loss of an individual or a pet
Sure.
or a person. It can be the loss of an idea. It can be the loss of a career. It could be the loss of something, that a relationship that you had anticipated and that you no longer have that relationship. There are so many other things that go into the realm of grieving
Yep.
of things that we've all lost people, loss of a childhood, loss of a perceived future,
Mm,
divorce. There's so the ending of a relationship. There are so many things that go into what that grieving process looks like for so many different people. And again, it goes back to everybody deals with things differently and people hide it. And I think that, when you get into professionals who do this for a living, you're going to come up across probably even more challenges. We know really well as clinicians, how do we mask our feelings? Because we go into sessions every day with our clients, and that's what we do. We're a blank slate. We have really acquired and perfected the art of having that face that's on because we're non-judgmental, we're non-reactive. And so that could also go into other areas where our personal lives we may not be showing on the outside because we've perfected this mask. I mean, I think that goes the same for I think anybody that's dealing with people for a living. Any sort of customer service, we have to go out, we have to smile, we have to put on a nice face because that's what our jobs require us to do. And so we really have just honed in these skills and perfected them when that's not really how we're feeling on the inside.
do you, and I'm don't mean any of this in a negative way, just as a way to learn,
Mhm.
but do you feel that many of us are wearing a mask, or all of us are in some degree?
I think so. I think either intentionally or unintentionally. I think that depending on the person, some of us intentionally put on that mask because we know we have to go out and we have to put on a good front, or there's things that we need to get accomplished and there aren't choices. And so those individuals who have that, I don't have a choice, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You have to go out and you have to get things done. That type A perfectionistic type of a personality. And then there are people who are really struggling to get out of bed and they are not able to put on as successful as a mask as maybe some of the other people do. But right, I mean, we don't go jump out of bed and not brush our teeth or comb our hair or take a shower or, present ourselves. We all, I mean, you could even take it to the level of like what you're saying, putting on our mask every morning and how we're preparing ourselves to leave the house. It could be something as simple as that.
Mm. Even people that look to the rest of us, wow, they got it going on. Yeah, look at that. They certain amount of income and the cars and the boats and everything. Look at that. Look at that.
Right.
Doesn't mean it is what you think it is.
Well, and correct. And so I would take it even a step further and say, so there might be these people who are such overachievers, but what are they trying to accomplish when you look at people who are such overachievers? What internally is missing that they keep checking off these check boxes before they finally feel content? When is enough enough? When do they have enough money? When do they have enough houses? When do they have enough success or
Mm.
accolades? And you could take that in a whole different direction by saying, well, what internally are they missing that they need to, on the outside, always be accomplishing something? And so inwardly, they could be depressed, they could be grieving, they could be empty. And all of these tangible things are what's filling their emptiness, but they keep striving for it because that doesn't work. If we don't feel that internal sense of happiness, we're always going to be striving to acquire more and more and more because happiness is an inside job.
Ouch. It's true. But it is.
It-
But it is. It starts from within. It doesn't start with that, expensive car, that big house, and all of that. Yeah, that can. add to your happiness. But if you're not starting with that, all that's it's like another mask, isn't it?
Mhm.
You
A-
know?
Absolutely. And so doing that inside work is what is so important. If you think about even everybody, if they just take a minute and just kind of reflect upon all of their past relationships, if we ourselves are not in a good whole place, we enter into relationships that are either needy or overcompensating, or we're the caretaker, or we're looking to save somebody. So if everybody just takes a minute and thinks about just their history of all of the relationships they've been in, not just, romantic relationships or marriages or, but personal relationships or friendships. Why are we seeking out? Why are there themes in our life? What
Mm.
internally is it that we have not really checked off for ourselves that helps us to feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more stable, so that we can then attract other people who are in a more stable place. Do you ever hear the saying, broken attracts broken?
Say that again.
Broken attracts broken.
Oh yeah. Yep, yep, yep. For sure. Yeah. Well, beautifully broken, I like to say. And
Absolutely.
and
I would
and
agree
we
with.
and we all are. And we all are. Um, doesn't it also go back to when, you see somebody and hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while. How's everything going? And the response is almost like the smiling depression, living the dream, or some
Right.
comment like that.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, they would love to say, "Oh, well, okay, here's what I got going on," but we don't.
Let me tell you about my week. There's a reason I haven't been in touch for 6 months. This is what I've been, and I think that society is, you ask those questions, but not everybody really is asking those questions. They're more just, oh, hi, how you doing? How have you been? And then you start to talk, and then I think you get this look of somebody on the outside who's going, oh, whoa, I wasn't expecting that kind of an answer. So you immediately backpedal or shut down. And so I think that makes it challenging too. And that goes with that, not wanting to be embarrassed or not wanting to share more things than than you really are feeling on the inside, because you've got this persona, or people wouldn't expect that from you. People have this expectation of who you are and what you can handle. And the more I think that we take on as a society, I think the less able people are able to really see what it is that we need, or what it is that we're suffering with or from, because our outward appearance certainly doesn't present that way.
Do you think it's also that many of us don't want to say anything, even that situation? Hey, what's now? What's going on over there? You don't want to burden. You don't want to burden others.
Exactly.
Like, just it's better not to say anything because I don't want to bring them down with me, and that, or you feel guilty, or whatever it might be. Um,
Right, right.
and of course,
Mhm.
you want to put on that persona that everything is okay. Um, what's let's look at it from both sides. Let's say you are somebody that is dealing with some challenges, and I don't necessarily mean like deep depression, but you're kind of like, yeah, having a day, week, maybe it's been a month, not horrible, but um, where do you go with that?
So if you're dealing with something that is got some ongoing themes for you, and I guess there are some markers here. So
Hmm.
what I would be looking for when I am doing any sort of like diagnostic or recommendation for treatment would be, are you able to get out of bed? Is there been any unexplained weight loss? Are you able to, what does your sleeping patterns look like? Are you socially isolating? I think those are things that we want to take a look at for ourselves, because I think we all have bad days, or we all have breakups or divorces or losses or things that really impact us greatly, which our responses or our actions or reactions are appropriate for the situation that we're dealing with. It's when it seeps on past where we're not functioning optimally. That's when we want to take a step back and say, okay, I've lost 15 or 20 pounds, or my health's not doing well, or I'm coming home from work, and after I'm done with my parenting responsibilities or my household responsibilities, I'm going to bed. I'm no longer socializing or going out. I'm not wanting to leave the house. Those are times where you want to take a step back and say, I might want to seek out some therapy to talk to somebody to kind of process what it is that's going on. Why am I feeling stuck? What is it that feels so overwhelming that, normal coping skills that I would use to kind of get through some of these day-to-day depressional or situational depressions are no longer working. We always want to just be mindful of what is our body telling us, because our body is never going to let us get away with it. The body keeps score.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I don't care how many masks or layers that you're wearing. Our internal system is not going to let us get away with that. And that's an important cue for us to listen to, and to listen to for our children as well, if we start noticing some symptomatic changes.
You can run, but you can't hide from yourself.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Absolutely.
You know,
Mhm.
as much as, your brain is trying to hide things and camouflage it and minimalize it and whatever it might be, your body knows. And like you say, it's going to catch up with you. And sometimes it'll whisper. And then after a period of time, it's going to start yelling at you. And then you need to address it.
Mhm.
Address it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, and that's one of the things I talk to my clients a lot who have these long-term stress episodes in their life, is how the importance of really managing that, because what happens is that our body starts to break down internally, and we start to get these stress-related ailments. And some of them are lifelong ailments. And so they're not things that go away once your depression gets better. There are things that our body has now broken down, and we have to either use medication to manage it, or we have diet changes to manage it. The stress levels, they wreak such havoc on our bodies, and it's so important for us to have that internal cue, or that internal barometer that says, screaming at us, these neon lights, something is wrong, something is wrong. It's really important for us to take a step back and look at that, because there is no person that should be more important than you. You have to be a priority. You absolutely have to be able to have that self-care. And if you don't, because you're thinking that these things are more important, that I can't make myself a priority because, or these are things that I need to give or to do. But when your body breaks down, or you're sick, or you're depressed, or you can't get out of bed, who's going to take care of those things for you? So it's really important to realize, that put the oxygen mask on first analogy, it couldn't be any more true in real life. Is it's so important for us to have that self-care.
I'm texting someone. Please excuse me.
That's okay.
There's a reason. So saw somebody at the gym today, and I run into him occasionally. We're, on a friendly basis, and he dumps, unlike the therapist, and he tell me about his family situation and everything. And I said, listen, I have to run. I got to go to work. I'm on a podcast. He knows. And I'm like, and I said to him, what's the most important thing? Well, I got to know from my kids and my daughter. She's in college. And I'm like, no, you. And it's almost like I
Mhm.
hit him, but I didn't. It was just like slap him in the head with my look. And I was like, no, it's you. Think about that.
Right,
And I was a little forceful with
right.
him. And he's like, thank you for saying that. Like, oh my God. And I said, dude, I gotta go. Like I'm like, I got 3 minutes to get to work and the gym's like 2 minutes away. Like I gotta go. And I could hear him yelling, like, I really appreciate it. And I just text him, no one is more important than you. Because it's the truth.
Yeah.
And we don't realize
Yeah.
it. We don't want to accept it. We feel guilty thinking that, all of that. We got to change that. We got to change
Mhm.
that.
And nobody can make us a priority the way that we know that we need to be
No,
made a priority. I
no.
think that's important to really let that resonate, is that unless we very specifically let somebody else know exactly what's inside of our head every second of every minute of every day, nobody's going to know what our needs are or be able to meet those needs if we can't do that for ourselves. And that's really important.
Yeah.
If our happiness or our day is dependent on somebody else, the problem with that is that that other person is having a bad day, or their level is low and they can't give you what you need. Now, what you're doing is you're operating on borrowed energy from somebody else, if they don't have that energy to give you and you're not able to produce it for yourself, what happens? Right? Your bad day has just gone to a worse day.
It's so true. And yes, you can be in a wonderful relationship, marriage, and all of that. And I get that. And that's all great. And some of us are codependent or more dependent than we need to be or should be. But what it really comes down to is hard, hard to hear this. They're not guaranteed, the other person. There's no guarantee. Anything could happen tomorrow. They could be gone. They could leave you. They could pass. It's the truth. You'll always have you.
Mhm.
You'll always have you.
Right.
And you can't forget that.
And I work on that a lot with my clients who are in codependent relationships where they are so intertwined that there isn't any individuality.
And then,
And,
yeah.
and it's helping them to, because obviously you don't want to come out and say, well, if your partner or your husband or your wife dies tomorrow, what are you going to do? I mean, that's a pretty bold thing to say. So what I work on is just strengthening that independence and that ability to give yourself what it is that you're seeking from that other person. Because if we can't fill our own cup, then we're not going to be able to really be successful in all areas all the time. And that's what we want, right? We always want to be striving to be the best versions of ourselves. How do we do that? We do that by building ourselves up internally and being able to just kind of be our own cheerleader. You've got this. What do you need? Not be afraid to reach out to other people, not be embarrassed or ashamed to admit that you need help or that you want therapy or medication management. Being able to set a routine and a schedule for yourself and stick to that. Sometimes if you can just check box it throughout your day, helps you to get through your day. So when you're having a really low or depressed day, what does your regular schedule look like? And check off those check boxes. Get up at 6 o'clock, do your meditation, go to the gym, have your coffee, go to work. And even if it's systematic, at least we're getting through the things that we need to. And then we can look back on our day. And it's kind of like, when you go home and you've made your bed and you walk into your bedroom, you're like, oh, wow, at least I made my bed today. There's one accomplishment that you can feel really good about.
I don't make my bed and I need to because that feeling of walking in at the end of the day, like walking into a hotel room, it's like, yeah, let me just peel that sheet back and just like slide around in there. New Beginnings, WC.com. You can work with people outside of your area virtually, depending on the type of work. A tough subject today, but so important. So important.
So
Yeah.
important. So important. And I just, if we could just have one closing remark is that there's always going to be somebody out there to listen, no matter how depressed you are, no matter how much shame or embarrassment or guilt or not wanting to, burden other people. There is somebody out there who cares enough to listen, whether that be a hotline, a suicide hotline, whether that be your therapist, whether that be a friend. There is somebody out there, no matter who you are or what you're suffering with. And I think that's really important that I want everybody to hear is no matter what your situation is, somebody can help you through that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And many times somebody who helps somebody else out, they're getting so much out of it that they got to help somebody or even just listen. It's not like you're burdening anybody. You're helping the other person. Thank you for today, Sherri Ann. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
You got it. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.